Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
A good friend Kevin sent me a note. Says, Steve, check out this story involving an attorney who got himself in trouble. Lawyer who slapped colleague in front of Derby Courthouse suspended for a year. This is from ctpost.com. Ethan Fry wrote this. A lawyer who received a suspended sentence after taking a plea deal related to slapping another attorney in front of the state superior court has been suspended from practicing law for a year. It was a 9-page decision handed down by the judge who wrote that the lawyer owed a duty to the legal profession and to the general public to abide by the law and not commit crimes. In a brief interview Monday, the lawyer said he would not appeal the decision, which he said was very fair. He made national news when he successfully represented a former Fairfield Dog Rescue Agency president who was found not guilty by a judge of animal cruelty charges in the death of 5 dogs in her former Fairfield home. But on September 7th of 2022, he confronted another attorney in front of the Derby Courthouse and demanded an apology from him related to a decade-old disagreement. So apparently, he saw the other attorney and he goes, I need an apology. And it's one of those things where if you demand an apology from somebody and they give it to you, how meaningful is that? You've all seen it before where a parent or a teacher makes a little kid apologize to another little kid, and you're like, you force it out of them. What good is it? So the man who was confronted here tried to defuse the situation, after which the attorney slapped him. And he slapped him so hard, it caused him to have a bruise, and one of his ears actually started to bleed. He received a suspended 364-day jail sentence after pleading no contest to a charge of third-degree assault in connection with the incident. He's also convicted in January of 2023 of stalking and harassment charges in West Hartford in connection to incidents involving a different victim, a former friend, and received a suspended sentence in that case as well. So it sounds like this attorney has what we call issues. At a hearing last month, the attorney said he was incredibly depressed and in a dark place at the time, calling his attack on the other attorney one of the biggest mistakes of his life. He has been treated weekly by a counselor since January of 2023 for anxiety and depression, and 2 fellow attorneys testified he's now better at dealing with stress. The question is he probably needs to deal with his anger too. The judge gave him credit for getting treatment as well as his genuine remorse, embarrassment, acceptance, and contrition, including a public apology to the attorney he slapped. Here's the problem. When people are in court, they're often genuinely remorseful. I've seen people in court on the verge of tears, all dressed up, and go back to what they were acting like when they did what they did. So she also noted he'd been disciplined before, including a 120-day suspension for making disparaging remarks about a judge in front of the Derby Courthouse in 2012. The attorney said his disagreement with the man he slapped was rooted in comments that he claimed that the other attorney had made in connection to the remarks about the judge back in 2012. So he's literally talking about something that happened 10 years ago. And by the way, he was suspended for that also. So for an attorney to bring that up or to have commented on that back then probably wasn't that out of line. Balancing the aggravating and mitigating factors, the judge suspended this attorney for 1 year without the need to apply for readmission on the condition that he continue mental health treatment and follow the recommendations of mental health providers for 5 years. So the 364 days was the suspended sentence for the criminal part of this, okay? So the suspension, it's complicated, but the suspension by the bar is a year. The punishment by the court for the criminal act was 364 days. Just make sure that's clear. While the court recognizes the consequences of the respondent's actions toward both the former friend who was attacked and maligned by the respondent, both personally and professionally, and the attorney who was slapped, a well-respected member of the bar who dealt with not only the assault but the attendant uninvited publicity following the assault, the court is confident that the purposes of attorney discipline are satisfied with this disposition. So the attorney who got slapped said Monday he respected the judge's decision. And then he said, the attorney who slapped me has apologized profusely and sought the medical and mental health treatment he badly needed. I think the judge did the right thing and afforded him every opportunity to stay on track. But I do worry when I see people who have been suspended more than once. Balancing the aggravating and mitigating factors, the man was suspended for 1 year without the need to reapply for admission to the bar on the condition that he continue mental health treatment, et cetera, et cetera. So what they're getting at here is that if you get suspended, it depends on the state you're in, but in some states, it can be as short as 3 years. But if you get suspended for a certain length of time, there is a cutoff where they say, okay, if you get suspended for 6 months or 1 year, and you get through that okay, you can simply contact the bar and go, I want to get my license going again. They'll say fine. But depending on what you did, they might have a little hearing or something. But there usually is a point at which they say, oh, if you get suspended for 3 years or more, or whatever it is in your state, you have to reapply for admission as if you were never an attorney in the first place. Meaning that you may have to take the bar exam again. You may have to go through character and fitness again. And when you go through character and fitness, they might look at you and go, gee, you were suspended for 4 years. Let's talk about that. So that's the big situation there. So meanwhile, the man who did the slapping and has been suspended agrees with the judge's ruling. I believe the decision was very, very fair. It was a long, grueling process, but I believe the judge issued a fair decision, taking everything into account. Now, I know some people are going to say, but Steve, you know something? Slapping somebody? Is that really that big of a deal? I got news for you. Physical violence has no place in a situation like this. I have seen attorneys get extremely riled up. I've had attorneys very, very riled up at me. I've had somebody who was basically having steam coming out of their ears, counter-rotating like that, or red in the face, or screaming at me. I've had that before. I've been practicing law for 33 years. I've had that happen before. Opposing counsel, screaming. Okay, not in a courtroom, but like out in the hallway or out in front of the courthouse. I've actually had an attorney step in front of me, try to block my way so I couldn't get to my car. Okay? Now, the good news is I'm 6'2". And you're only going to get so far trying to block my way getting to my own car. But I've seen people do that, where they wig out. And here I'm going to tell you is that I've never actually felt like somebody was going to raise a hand to me or try to punch me or try to push me or try to touch me. But I'm telling you right now that is the line that you do not cross. So if you want to yell at me in a parking lot, if you think that's the best way to handle it and impress me with how righteous your position is, go ahead and yell at me. That's fine. Words ain't going to hurt me, okay? But you do not touch, strike, punch, slap, grab. You do not touch the other person. That's a very serious problem. So I believe that the charge he faced, because he was charged criminally and sentenced to 364 days, which was suspended, but that was the sentence, 364, and now he's been suspended for a year from the practice of law. And I think that's appropriate, especially considering that he's been suspended once before 120 days. So the guy has issues, but he says he's dealing with said issues right now. And if he's dealing with them, including the anger management issues, which clearly he had at one point, well, okay, but there have to be consequences. So I'm glad this happened. Quite often we hear about people doing things and getting away with it. Well, it's the first time he's ever done that. That's not even a good argument, okay? When someone does something wrong, it's the first time. That means everybody gets one bite at the apple? I don't know about that. So I'm talking about physical violence, okay? And it wasn't just a little slappy slap. It was actually bruises and blood. Or actually a bruise. Let's go singular because that's what they said in the story. I don't want to exaggerate this. But the point is, he's lucky he didn't get hit back. And then things could have gotten really ugly. But I have to salute the attorney who took the slap because he didn't hit the guy back. And instead just said, I'm going to let the legal process take this. So the guy gets a suspended 1 year, almost 1 year, jail sentence and suspended for a year from the practice of law. So there you go, Kevin. Thanks for sending that. From ctpost.com. Connecticut lawyer who slapped colleague in front of the Derby courthouse suspended for a year. Ethan Fry wrote that. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. You know what really grinds my gears? Clutch failure.